In the endless expanses of the Serengeti savanna, where golden grass sways in the gentle breeze and acacia trees spread their branches under the scorching sun, lived a large herd of elephants. Their mighty silhouettes towered over the plain like living mountains, slowly moving in search of water and food. This herd was the pride of the reserve, and was closely monitored by two rangers, Layla and Samson, whose devotion to wildlife was as great as the savanna itself. This herd included a small baby elephant named Kai, whose energy and curiosity knew no bounds. His gray skin glistened in the sun, and his large, expressive eyes sparkled with a thirst for discovery. Kai always stayed close to his mother, Asha, but as soon as she was distracted, he would run off to explore the surroundings. His short trunk curiously reached out to every new smell, and his small ears flapped with delight at the sight of something unusual. One hot afternoon, when the herd stopped at a watering hole to drink and splash around, Kai noticed a narrow path leading to thick bushes. The sun was beating down mercilessly, and the shade of the trees beckoned with its coolness. Making sure that Asha was busy fanning herself with her ears and sprinkling water on her back, Kai quietly moved away from the herd and headed for the thicket. There he saw strange objects hanging from the branches. They were wild bee nests woven from grass and clay, but Kai, full of curiosity, did not know what danger lurked inside. He stretched out his little trunk and gently touched one of the nests, pushing it slightly. At that moment, the nest came to life, emitting a low hum. The bees, disturbed by the uninvited guest, burst out in a dense swarm. At first, they simply circled around Kai, their hum filling the air with alarm. The baby elephant, unaware of the threat, tried to brush them away with his trunk, but accidentally hit the nest harder, and it fell to the ground with a crash. This angered the bees, and they attacked Kai, covering his skin and stinging his tender sides. Kai panicked. The burning pain from the stings made him let out a loud, piercing scream. He ran, his short legs tangling in the tall grass, while the swarm of bees kept up, chasing him with a relentless buzzing. The savanna, which had seemed so safe, now looked endless and desolate. Kai darted from side to side, but there was no shelter, only open plains and the scorching sun. In desperation, he noticed a small puddle left over from a recent rain, and without hesitation rushed toward it. Plunging into the dirty water, he tried to hide, submerging his body as deep as possible. But the bees did not retreat, continuing to circle above his protruding back and stinging him again and again. The pain was unbearable, and Kai screamed even louder, calling for help from Asha and the whole herd. Meanwhile, Layla and Samson were patrolling the savanna in their well-worn jeep. They had just checked the nearest watering hole when Kai's desperate cry reached their ears. Layla, who was behind the wheel, turned the car sharply toward the sound, while Samson, clutching the handrail, stared intently at the horizon. They knew that such a cry could only mean one thing: someone was in trouble. When they got there, the rangers saw a heart-wrenching picture. Little Kai, half submerged in a puddle, was surrounded by a swarm of bees. His big eyes, full of fear, shone against the dark cloud of insects. Without wasting time, Layla stopped the jeep, and Samson grabbed a long branch of acacia that lay nearby. They ran up to the baby elephant, waving a branch and clapping loudly in their hands to chase away the bees. Layla shouted, distracting the swarm as Samson approached Kai cautiously. The bees were reluctant to back down, but some of them continued to cling to the skin of the baby elephant. Kai was shaking, his short legs twitching from fatigue and pain. After many minutes of struggle, the swarm began to dissipate like a dark cloud blown away by the wind. The bees returned to their destroyed nest, leaving Kai alone. The exhausted elephant was lying in a puddle. His breath was heavy, and his skin was covered with red spots of bites. Layla and Samson went down with him. Layla gently stroked his head, whispering soothing words, and Samson began to wash the bites with water from her flask to ease the burning. Kai, in spite of the pain, looked at his saviors with gratitude. His eyes, still moist from tears, expressed relief. He tried to get up, but his legs were shaking, and Layla supported him, helping to keep his balance. "We'll take you to your mother, baby," said Samson, gently taking Kai by the trunk and pointing him towards the jeep. "You're brave, you held on." The rangers decided that Kai should be returned to his flock as soon as possible. They drove him slowly across the savanna, and the jeep was driving ahead, paving the way. The sun clung to the horizon, coloring the grass in warm orange tones. Kai, despite the pain, walked forward, his steps becoming more confident. He no longer cried, as if he knew the danger was behind him. 20 minutes later, they noticed the familiar silhouettes of elephants in the distance. The herd was grazing at the group of acacia trees, their long trunks tearing off the leaves from the branches. Samson smiled and pointed to his family. "Look, Kai, you're almost home." The little elephant, smelling the familiar smell, accelerated his step. Asha, his mother, raised her head and immediately noticed her baby. She uttered a low, deep roar, which spread across the savannah, and hurried to him. The other elephants turned too, their ears moving, catching movement. Kai, seeing his mother, made a faint but joyful sound and ran to her despite the pain in his sides. When they met, Asha gently touched her son with her trunk, sniffing him and checking that he was all right. Kai clenched to her, his little ears clapping as he rubbed on her side. The rest of the herd gathered around, creating a protective circle. Their hobbits were reaching for Kai as if they wanted to make sure the baby was safe. Layla and Samson stepped back to not disturb the elephants. They parked the jeep on the side and got out to see Kaveh again. Asha watched the people carefully, but did not prevent them from coming, as if she understood that they were helping her child. Samson carefully approached the Kaveh and examined its skin. The bites left noticeable red spots, and some places began to swell. "You have to treat the wounds," said Samson, taking out of his backpack a first aid kit. He mixed the antiseptic solution and gently applied it to the bites with soft cloth. Kai shuddered from a slight burning, but did not resist. Asha was standing there, her trunk wriggling slightly as she watched the ranger's actions. She touched Kai softly, as if calming him. Layla, meanwhile, kept an eye on the herd to make sure the other elephants weren't nervous. She noticed the older male of the herd, a mighty elephant with long tusks, watching closely. His calm was passed on to the others, and the savannah was again filled with a peaceful silence. When the wound treatment was complete, Samson stepped back and nodded to Layla. "He will be fine. Now he needs rest and care of Asha." Kai turned to look at the rangers and made a short sound as if for their help. He leaned against his mother, who hugged him with a cocoon. The other elephants gradually faded away, returning to their grasses and branches. Asha remained close to her son, her eyes glowing with warmth and care. She doused him gently with water from the grove, as if to erase the traces of the horror experienced. Layla and Samson returned to the jeep, their hearts full of joy. They knew the savannah was sometimes harsh, but it was moments when man and animal worked together that gave them meaning. Layla started the engine, and they slowly drove back to the ranger's station, looking back at the herd, which now looked calm and peaceful. At sunset, when the sun was sunk into the horizon, shining a golden glow on the savannah, Kaveh stood beside Asha, his ears braced. In his heart, perhaps still lived the memory of the raging bees. But now he knew that his family and good people were always there. Layla and Samson, returning to the base, hoped that Kai would grow up strong and wise like his ancestors, and that Serengeti would witness his future adventures. This story is a reminder of how fragile and beautiful wildlife is, and how important it is to protect it. Friends, thank you for taking the time to tell this story. Don't forget to put a like and sign up to support us and learn more such soulful stories.